I don't know if it started. I didn't get the little pop-up. Okay. Here it is. We are being recorded. So just letting you all know. Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you all. And we're up to 13 already. I know we have more that will be attending. We don't have, Jeff and I, a hard stop at 10:30. So if this is, there's a lot of conversation at the end of the presentation portion, we can run over a little unless something's changed. Jeff, is that still the case for you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will go ahead and do a quick recap because we always end up having some people who were not able to attend sessions 1 and 2. So just a quick recap of what we've been doing. This is a listing appointment step-by-step. So steps 1 of 3 of the listing presentation to give you the best opportunity to win, particularly in competitive situations. But as Jeff and I have reiterated multiple times, and Jeff Talani, say hi.
Hi, good morning.
So for anyone that didn't meet Jeff before, Jeff is my counterpart managing the Elk Grove office, and we have a number of Elk Grove people on the phone as well. He also manages West Sacramento and has been here longer than I've been here, even as an agent. So it doesn't look like it though. You look like you're, 25.
Right. Don't I wish?
Anyway, so step 1, the first week, was just covering the pre-listing interview or the pre-listing questionnaire. I'm going to mute everybody because somebody is talking and I can hear them. 1 minute. How do I mute everybody? Jeff, I'm not getting a little pop-up to be able to do it. There it is. Jeff, you'll have to unmute yourself because that probably muted you as well. Okay. If you need to ask a question, you can always unmute yourself. Okay, guys. Going back to session 1 was the pre-listing interview or the pre-listing questionnaire. You should have already received the recording of session 1 if you were part of that workshop, and you should have received the pre-listing questionnaire sent out afterward. If you did not, you can send me an email and I'll make a list of everybody who didn't receive it and I will resend it. Last week on Friday, we covered the pre-listing packet, which can be delivered electronically or in person. And I'm not going to go through all the details of that workshop, but basically we showed you some of the things that you should consider putting in a packet, different ways to deliver it, talked about the scenario of whether you do it electronically in person, and if you go in person, whether you enter the house or not. So as we go through the listing presentation today, we'll reference some of those things. Has anybody, I'm just curious, has anybody really gotten on their stuff and put together any additional information for their pre-listing packet since last week's class? You can take yourself off mute or raise your hand, however you want to respond. We have 26 of you now. Somebody must have done something.
Yeah, I met with Jeff this week. We went over some of the listing items on there. We kind of changed it to some of the more of the office part rather than individual.
Mm-hmm.
For like, how many homes have you sold, in the area? I mean, we do a lot in Elk Grove, but looks more as a company, as an office, that we do hundreds compared to just
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little more impressive the way Jeff presented it to me to change it over. So
perfect. Thank you for sharing. And I can't see your name. Who is this?
That was Ken.
No, thanks, Jeff.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for doing that. And you know what? For all of you that maybe don't have a ton of listings yet, it's a great way to go, right? Use your office numbers, use the company numbers for the area. You can put it out there. Coldwell Banker Realty is one company across Northern California here. So you can use however big a numbers you need to support what you do in the market, right? And I know I did that a lot my first year because you kind of got to do that when you're new or when your market you're not selling as much, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are all a team. This is your team, guys. Coldwell Banker Realty.
It's we before me, and that benefits you even when you're trying to create business in a different area or different location, or maybe trying to create a market niche. It allows you to leverage the we as you build the me.
Absolutely. So I love that. All right, so what we're going to do today, and again, if you're missing any recordings from last week, I did send those out, but we had a problem with the attendee list for anyone who's just recently joined, and so we did not have everyone who was supposed to be on that list. Just send me a quick email and I will forward that out to all of you later on today because I do have it, the recording and the materials. So let's get started. So this is what we're going to do today. We are going to role play the listing presentation. We're going to make it a pretty simple one, but then we are going to open it up at the end for you guys to have questions or throw out some objections. However, because we believe that objection handling is a really big deal, outside of the little bit of objection handling we'll do on today's call, and Jeff and I are happy to wing that because we have done tons of that in the past, we're going to set up another class here in the next couple weeks to do just objection handling for listings. So there'll be another hour-long class just on that topic, okay? But again, we do expect that some of you are going to have some things at the end that you want to run by us and see what we would do in those cases, right, Jeff?
Yes.
All right.
Muted myself.
No problem. Let me.
If I may say something really quickly, I actually did your pre-listing questionnaire on the phone with someone, and that is what, you know, finally brought all the objections on the table, and he was not saying anything. I'm like, what is he doing? Why is he not, you know, talking? Why is he not doing anything? And then I noticed through that pre-listing questionnaire what was all on his mind and what's blocking him, which is all of the, you know, the repertoire of objections to everything. What I was writing to you this morning, so that was good.
That's excellent.
Tara, I am so glad you did that because I know that's a new step for you. And isn't it wonderful to know that when you walk in the door, you know what's in their head a little bit more and you know what to expect?
Yes, those questions triggered really a lot. And I just have to make sure I'm not using any wrong sentences again to lose it all.
You'll be fine.
Of every sentence and everything, but anyhow, it was good.
Well, I'm so glad. Thanks for telling us. Yes, Tara was texting me. I did my workout at 5:30 this morning. I just got off the treadmill and she was already texting me about all this. So she's excited. She has an appointment coming up. All right, everybody, let's move up to the presentation. We are going to role play. So unless you really feel like you can't wait until the end of what we do, hold your questions if you would. And then when we get to the end of the role play, again, we're happy to have you jump in and ask questions about the steps or interact. Is that all right with everybody? All right, cool. Great. So Jeff, I'm going to pull up what we put together. It's fun to work with someone like Jeff that I've been working with for so many years. Jeff was one of the original people who taught me when I got into this business.
Original from 1906.
Yeah, all right, we've been around a long time. All right, so we're going to do a quick review of the steps to a successful presentation, and we're going to provide this to you. We thought you might like it in a little checklist form. And so this is a PowerPoint, but we can convert it to PDF or whatever you'd like to see. So again, we talked about it, the pre-listing questionnaire, delivering the pre-listing packet, and then you're going to be delivering a marketing book. Jeff, would you like to talk about the marketing book and when and what type of thing they can deliver real quick?
Yes, so you have the option of including a marketing book, and I know some agents like to deliver that up front prior to the listing appointment itself, and some prefer to showcase that at the listing appointment. That is up to you. The idea behind it is it would allow you to provide some information up front, more specifically as to who you are, testimonials speaking to how you work, what you do, and how the client can benefit, in addition to showcasing maybe some of the various marketing strategies that you'll utilize, as well as Coldwell Banker. And so anything I think that we can do to best solidify our intention on how we're going to help them market their home, that also speaks to, you know, marketing, negotiation, and managing the transaction, I think is a benefit. So it'll really help solidify what that point is that we're trying to get across. And then in addition to that, I would encourage everyone to get in the habit of sending a video. Now, one of the ways of sending a video is you can send a video of yourself, speaking about who you are, how you work, why, the fact that you're simply looking forward to meeting them to discuss the marketing, negotiation, and management and sale of their home. Or you can showcase a previous video of a previous listing that you had on Lindsay Concierge, and you can say, hey, this is what I share. This is just one of the many things that I provided for my previous seller that they found great value in, and I wanted to share it with you. So it really gives us an opportunity to touch on video and how it is we utilize that to market properties.
Absolutely. So thank you, Jeff. And I got to say, you know, when I started in the business, we didn't even have these smartphones that we could do video on our own phones. Even if all you do is take a personal video of yourself confirming the appointment, letting them know how excited you are to meet with them and send that over, it is much more impactful than sending an email or a text or leaving a voicemail. I know it sounds crazy and maybe you're not comfortable with that right now because you haven't done that kind of thing in the past, but let us help you. When I came into this job 6 years ago and started managing the office, and we were told as management we needed to use more video in what we do, I pushed myself to do that. And I remember the first day I took videos of myself being so nervous, I kept deleting them over and over and redoing the video I was going to send to someone. Don't do that to yourself. They aren't scrutinizing you the way you scrutinize yourself. Just try this. I think you'll be surprised at the warmth it creates and the connection it creates between you and other people. Jeff, would you agree? We've done a lot of this in the group.
Yep, like Nike says, just do it. I mean, ultimately, you just do the video and don't second guess yourself how you look and how you sound. You just got to get past that and say, no, I need to do it because that's where folks are at, and I need to be where they are.
Very good. Thank you. Now we made another list for the listing appointment. And again, this isn't set in stone, but it's going to keep you on track. And Jeff and I discussed this last night. Remember how we talked about using the pre-listing questionnaire and having it printed out and reading from it so you don't miss anything? Well, when you go to the listing appointment, you're going to take something like a portfolio or just a scratch pad. I have my little scratch pad here to take notes on. I would probably have one that you can open up, and I would have this as a checklist on the left-hand side. And as I complete things and make sure I've covered them, check them off. Again, it makes you appear more professional that you are making sure you cover all these things. I used to tell people, I need to keep my little checklist with me so I don't get off track, you know, getting to know you. Because what happens when we really like someone? Do we sometimes get off track having a personal conversation and miss some important things? Has that ever happened to any of you?
All of us.
All of us, right? So it does. Go ahead. What?
All the time. It happens to me all the time. Jeff was calling me out on it.
Every time.
Sarah.
Every time.
It does. It always happens. And it's really easy to have that happen in a listing appointment. Not to freak you guys out, but those of you who haven't had a lot of listing appointments, I'm just going to share with you, when I was new, my first year, I did real well with listings, but I had a really hard time getting out of the house. So I would show up for this hour or 90-minute listing appointment, and honest to God, sometimes it was 3 hours later when I got out of there because I had a really hard time keeping on track. This kind of thing helps. So if you are that kind of person that gets engaged with the people you're talking to make sure you don't miss something important and critical to yours and their success, have the checklist. There's nothing wrong with that. It will make you look more organized and structured and professional. All right, I'm not going to go through this right now. Jeff, do you think we should go through the list or just start our presentation?
I think we can just jump into the presentation. I think it's a pretty easy outline to follow.
Okay, so I'm going to go, and again, we can go back to this at the end and discuss these points if you'd like, but it'll be provided to you. All right, guys? So we have shown up to the house. I'm not going to go to the presentation yet. And Jeff is my seller. And he answers the door, and I already saw the home because I'm that agent that dropped off my pre-listing packet in person yesterday. And so at that point, I had him run me through the home for 10 minutes. So I've already taken the tour of the home and taken notes. But if you're the person who emailed it over electronically or who dropped it on the doorstep, the first thing you're going to do is greet the seller and ask them for a quick preview of the home, and then take notes and ask questions as you go through the home, because you want to know as much as possible about their home and how they feel about their home, right? And then where do you want to sit?
At the kitchen table.
And if anybody in here is going, well, why is that important? If you've ever been to someone's house and let them direct you to the living room and they sit you in an armchair and they sit across the room from you on a couch, just imagine how awkward and difficult it is to do your presentation with someone that far away and a coffee table between you. I think that has happened to many people who are new in the business at least once. It usually doesn't happen to you more than once because it just completely throws you off. So make sure you ask them to take you to the kitchen table, or it could be the dining room table, but it needs to be somewhere where you can sit close enough together that you have a table to work on and you're sitting at a table. All right, a workspace, not a coffee table, not a living room, right? All right, so you need to be in charge of that. Be prepared. So the next thing you're going to do is take out, and we'll just pretend we're doing this now. I'm going to skip this. You're going to take out your marketing plan, and you're going to remind them, hey, Jeff, I am so happy to be back in your beautiful home. Thank you for the tour yesterday. And I'm excited to start reviewing what I'll be doing for you in this. Here, I'm going to take this down. Jeff, I can't talk without being able to see your face. I'm going to pretend I'm looking at him for a minute because that drives me crazy. I got to look at Jeff. So I'm in his home. So Jeff, I'm so excited to be back in your home, and I'm looking forward to going through what we can do to get you the highest possible price and the best possible terms, leaving you with the most money in your pocket. Now, you mentioned when we were here, when I was here yesterday, that you were meeting with someone else last night and you met with another agent the day before. How did those interviews go? And, kind of where's your head at this point?
First person wasn't that impressed with. They didn't show up on time. They obviously weren't well prepared. They didn't seem to know the values in the neighborhood, nor the builder, just not very familiar. Second agent seemed to do a really great job. They shared some marketing ideas with me I hadn't thought about, told me how it was they were going to showcase my home, get the information out to some of the neighbors, talked a lot about the success that they've had in their business. So that appointment went pretty well.
Okay, nice. So it sounds like the first person's off the table. So basically you're looking for what I have to say, and it sounds like you're going to be making a decision between myself and the person yesterday.
That is correct.
All right. Do you mind if I ask who that was that you met with?
Bob Smith at KW Real Estate. KW Realty.
I know Bob. He's a really nice guy. All right. Thank you. Well, again, I'm very excited to show you what we have here today. So first thing I want to do is go back through the questions I initially asked you and make sure we're both on the same page for everything. So now this is where you guys pull up your pre-listing questionnaire from the prior day. Okay, give me 1 minute. I know, Jeff, I didn't pull it up in advance. You're going to go back through it, guys, and you're just going to verify everything that you talked about previously. And I don't have one that's completed for this class, but you're going to have the one you filled out with them. Uh-oh, my computer's glitching. There we go. Nope, that didn't work. 1 more minute, guys. There it is. And the reason you're going to do this, as Tara said, there were a lot of things that came out in that conversation when you asked the questions that are drivers, things that might raise objections. You want to make sure that you have that person thinking about everything that's important to them before you get into your presentation. So you're just going to go back through it and say, again, very excited that Steve and Barbara referred me to you, Jeff. When I checked with you before, you had mentioned there's no one else on title. You're the only decision maker, and you're the one who'll be signing the listing agreement and selling the house. Is that still accurate?
That is correct.
Okay, perfect. And obviously I have the property address, right? Been here a couple times. The mailing address, you wanted things that are mailed to your home to be sent to your P.O. box. So P.O. Box 456, yes?
Yes.
All right. And I have your cell phone, proper email, just to confirm, because I haven't emailed you much at this point. You want to use your work email, correct? Because that's the one you're looking at most of the time?
Yes, I prefer that.
Okay, perfect. And the biggest thing I want to review is you mentioned the poor experience you had the last time you sold a property. And again, that the communication was so bad. And again, I want to reiterate, I heard you and I understand. Is there anything else that you're looking for in an agent other than superior communication to what you had last time? Just share with me what your expectation is there.
I think that's key, just somebody who does what they say they're going to do. I just need somebody who's going to follow up and let me know what it is I can expect to have happening next, instead of me always having to inquire about where we're at and what's going on during the marketing and or sale of the property.
Perfect. And I dropped off that packet yesterday. Did you do your homework? Did you have a chance to go through it and take a look at everything?
Honestly, I went through some of it. Ashley didn't get through the whole thing.
Okay, that's fine. That happens a lot. We're all very busy, right? So that tells me we'll just have to review a few things in there to make sure you have what you need. There were some references in there, and I did provide contact information for those clients. I don't know if you probably haven't had a chance to reach out at this point, but you are welcome to contact any of them, and I'm happy to provide more if they're needed. Okay.
Okay.
That way they can validate my my immense amount of communication that my clients get. So from a communication standpoint, my plan typically includes one scheduled call a week where we actually sit and go through everything that's taken place in the prior week, whether your home is just getting ready to hit the market, whether we're on the market, whether we've received offers. It just doesn't really matter where you are in the process or whether we're in escrow. And during that meeting, we'll go through every detail of what's transpired to date that needs to be covered. However, I will communicate daily with you about showings, any inquiries or information that I receive, and any kind of feedback that you'll need to know what's going on with the home. Does that sound like what you're looking for from a communication standpoint?
Yes. That's
all right. And you, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Perfect. All right. And you mentioned that your home is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and I've been through the house. You have a very beautiful backyard, large lot. I'm looking forward to getting the pictures and getting the marketing done. And we both agree there isn't much you need to do to hit the market. The home's in fantastic condition. And yes.
Okay, it's Destiny. I have a question. So
Mm-hmm.
you brought up references. I've never done that. So how do you do that and not get in trouble? Like, how do you ask your clients prior to, or like how do you get that?
Yes.
Yes, you could ask your clients if you could use them for a future reference.
Yep. You ask them.
Great idea.
Them, and then you give their contact information. And if it's someone that you believe you're competing to win the listing, I always used to say, even up front, feel free to call my references before I come to the listing appointment. I would love to have you hear what my clients have to say about me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it gives you a chance to differentiate yourself too, to be able to say, hey, did any of the other agents you meet with provide you references to provide you a certainty of, whatever you want that message to be.
And Destiny, you close a lot of listings, so you do a fantastic job even without this. But just imagine if you're the only one who gave them that up front, you encourage them to call, they make those calls, and somebody can't stop saying a million great things about you. How much better positioned are you when you get there? Right?
It enhances your value.
Exactly. That's the goal, right? To walk in the door and not have as many objections, and to have somebody really kind of chomping at the bit to want to list with you unless there's some big reason not to. So great question though. And again, don't put anybody on there unless you've checked with them and let them know that, that you're going to be using them in this manner. And if it's important that they respond and it's a big deal and you think the people are going to call them, let them know they might be getting a call, right? Mm-hmm. So you told me that you're moving out to Folsom, Jeff. And like I mentioned, I've done a lot of business out in that area too. So I'm here to represent you on both ends, the sale and the move. So looking forward to get started there. And you wanted to be there just after the school year ended from what you were telling me. So it looks like we need to get the house on the market pretty quick. Has anything changed there?
No.
Okay.
At least by late spring.
All right, perfect. And you mentioned that you thought you wanted to get around 750 or a little more for the house. Is that still where your head is from what our conversation the other day? Okay, perfect. Well, I think you're going to be excited about the comps that I ran. The market's really good for you right now on the buy side. I mean, on the sell side. And then we'll talk about on how we protect you on the purchase side. And then you said you only owe $125,000 on your mortgage?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. And you don't have a line of credit or any seconds on the house?
No.
I think I forgot to ask that the other day, so just double checking. Nope. We don't want any surprises at the end, right? Okay. And we talked about the people that you've already spoken with, and sounds like one of those went well. Let's see. And since you've met with everybody else already, if everything goes well today and you are very impressed with what I present, is there any reason you wouldn't be ready to sign your listing agreement tonight?
No, I think I could be ready.
Okay, great. Well, let's get started. And this is weird doing it on a computer. How many of you guys do virtual listing presentations? That is something I personally have not done. All right. So again, going back to my 24-step marketing strategy, the job of an exceptional agent, we talked about this before, Jeff, is threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. So an exceptional marketing program is an agent that can create a buying frenzy for your home, most likely when someone else may not, based upon what they're doing. And in this market, it goes a step further because, as we all know, in most neighborhoods, many of the homes are getting multiple offers right out the gate. And in your neighborhood, there's a really good chance that could happen unless something changes in the market in the next couple of weeks. But one thing you may not know, I'm curious, did anybody else talk to you about how many escrows are falling out right now after they go pending right away?
No, they didn't touch on that.
So I ran some numbers for you, and in this zip code alone, 24% of the properties that went pending in the last 30 days came back on the market within a matter of weeks. And so it's something that we aren't hearing a lot about in the media because it's so exciting that things are selling for so much and so quickly. But I want to ask you, and often it isn't the fault of the home, the agent, or the seller. Because imagine when you're put in a position to bid on a house and you offer way over asking price and you remove things like, inspection or appraisal contingencies. And as a buyer, it's a little nerve-wracking, right? Now you've got the house, but you start finding out everything you didn't know about it. So as you can imagine, some buyers get cold feet when they start learning more about the house, and they move on. They back out during that period of time they have to do so. So if that happens to you, heaven forbid it doesn't, but if 1 in 4 homes are falling out of escrow, what is in the marketing plan of the agent that you're choosing to assure that you have phenomenal coverage at that point in your listing? Because you're looking at a good 2 to 4 weeks out, right? So when you're looking at my marketing plan, I want you to keep that in mind. And I have no idea what Bob showed you last night. I know you were impressed, but I can promise you, I have never had a seller tell me that anyone is doing more to enhance the exposure of their home in the right way for the long period of time. So I'm excited to show you that. All right.
Great.
So the first thing I'm going to do is talk to you about being an online presence. So this graph here shows you by brand who the most visited real estate brand is online. And as you can see, Coldwell Banker Realty is the #1 visited brand online by over 68 million views. If you go down the list, you can see everyone else is dramatically less. And all buyers nowadays, with the exception of just a small percentage, but 90+% are starting their search online. I know you've looked online at homes in Folsom, right? You were telling me that.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes. So on top of that, once we give you that online exposure, we are going to be taking the professional photography that I do. And by the way, I'm going to be bringing out someone phenomenal to the house. I'll be here with them. We will make sure that we're getting at least 36, if not more, magazine grade photos that can be used in all of the marketing I'm about to show you to best showcase your beautiful home. We'll be presenting a single property website. Have you seen one of those when you've been out looking at listings online? You can click on it.
Yeah, I have.
You have. Would you like
I've seen them in various portals and sites. Yeah.
Perfect. Is that something you'd like to see on your home?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, we'll be doing one. It will be beautiful. And there'll be contact information on how to reach out to me in multiple manners should they have interest or know someone that does. In addition, I have lived in the greater Sacramento area since 1977. My family relocated here from out of state when I was just in junior high. And I have been in the business and professional world in this area my entire life. I have a database of over 2,300 contacts, both personal and professional. And each time I list a home, I send my clients' homes out to everyone I know. So it will be a nice electronic listing. It'll have all your pictures, all the detail and description, and it will have the ability for them to contact me in multiple ways by just pressing on a button, and they can forward it as well. So that 2,300 people are used to receiving my things, and often they forward them to others. They reply or call and ask questions about the home, and it helps us to network and find people that might be specifically interested in your neighborhood or your home. Does that sound like something that would make sense for your home?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to create a virtual tour for MLS. I know you've been on MLS. Those tours have to be unbranded, so they can't have my name or my picture or anything on them. But the nice thing is when things populate from MetroList out to other websites, the tour will follow to many of them. So it is a proven fact that homes that have something in that spot on MetroList are viewed a high percentage of the time more than the ones that do not. So just know we will be taking care of that. Also, did anybody else talk to you about print publications and print advertising?
Not at all.
Really? So I'm curious, are you familiar with Sacktown, Sacramento Magazine? Have you seen that magazine when you've been sitting in?
Oh yeah, I've seen them all over the place. I've seen them in stores. I've seen them at hotels pre-COVID. I've seen them displayed at other, stores, etc.
Well, remember we talked about what happens if the house falls out of escrow and you want to make sure you're everywhere?
Yeah.
Well, I brought my Sacktown magazine, and as you can see from these beautiful advertisements, we take up about 15 to 20 pages each time the public magazine comes out. Sacktown only comes out 6 months out of the year. It's an every other month publication. So when the months we're not in Sacktown, we do the same advertising in Sacramento. So every single month, there's an opportunity for our listings to be out in the public eye. There are over 200,000 subscribers to the magazine, and the average household income of someone who actually subscribes is over $117,000 a year. So these are people that can actually buy homes. And then you have all those people that may not be subscribers or receiving it in their home, but again, they're seeing it all over town just like you do. So it's a great way to get exposure on your home. And we have had people call and ask questions from the magazine. And if the house has just fallen out of escrow, what a great time to get them out there to take a look, right?
Yeah.
So in addition, we have these publications all over the state. So if for some reason, when I start talking to you about how we identify who the most likely buyer is for the house, if we think that person might be coming from areas outside of Sacramento, we can make an educated decision to put your home in one of the other publications, in their print publications. So we'll talk more about that once you decide if you're moving forward with us, okay? And we're working together, okay?
Okay, good to know.
Now, our TV show. So Jeff, you mentioned you hadn't seen the TV show before. And so now guys, you shouldn't be as lame as me pulling this up at the last minute. It should already be up. But I'm going to pull it up. You should always demo this in your listing appointment. Who does? Has anybody else shown the TV show to a client at an appointment? I think you're missing the boat if you're not. You're all being really quiet.
This is like we learned in kindergarten, right? It's all about show and tell, and it's one thing to tell them. It's a whole nother thing to show them how this works and how they benefit.
Can you see it? Can you see it, Jeff?
I can, yes.
Okay.
California. Today we're taking you on an exclusive tour of beautiful properties throughout the region. This is an amazing place to call home, with gorgeous weather and wonders just waiting to be explored in and around the Golden State's capital city. Adventure can be found along scenic byways and on the slopes of world-class ski resorts. Every Saturday at 4:30 p.m., we invite you to view the
I'm going to stop it so we don't spend too much time on the show. But then you want to make sure they see one of the home ads, and you want to know about where the minute mark is for that price point that's similar to theirs, because there's homes on this TV show at all different price points. So here's one at $650. This is probably a good one for my $750 client.
Cabinetry. The light and bright kitchen features double ovens, a gas cooktop, and a dining bar, plus a breakfast nook. Call Kim Perkovich today for a private showing.
So Jeff, I will be putting your home on TV, and it will air on Saturday at 4:30. I'll give you the date when it's going to air. And we get extreme numbers of people watching this show. Let me show you the TV coverage map. So at 4:30 on Saturday, it's on CW31, so channel 31. This covers 16 counties, 1.37 million households, almost 3 million viewers over the age of 18, and is the 20th largest TV market in the US, the 11th largest Hispanic TV market, and the 11th largest Asian community in the US. So when we look again at where the buyers are coming from, which we will be doing shortly, you will see that many of the buyers are coming from communities around us, not necessarily always coming from the Bay or Southern California, although some are coming from those areas. So again, take a good look at this. You want your house on TV, especially if we run into a situation where we aren't in escrow a couple weeks out. And that does happen in our market. I'll be showing you that when we cover the numbers. Okay? Any questions?
Nope.
No?
Not yet.
Perfect. All right. And you had mentioned you were interested in having me do an open house. Is that still something you'd like us to do?
Yeah, as long as we do a safe one.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, we all need to be safe nowadays, don't we? So we have what's called a non-traditional open house plan. So what we're able to do is we can advertise a window of time. So for example, if we put your house on the market right away, we can schedule this for the following weekend, lock out a period of say 4 or 5 hours, and then we'll schedule appointment only showings during that time. We've had really good luck with this. I will be here along with a team member to make sure we manage it properly, and there will only be 2 people allowed into the home at a time with me. Okay. And we'll make sure we keep everything clean and sanitary and keep people protected. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the other great thing that we're going to be doing, you've mentioned you've driven by some listing signs out in Folsom, just driving around neighborhoods. We're going to be putting a special rider on the sign in your front yard that allows people to reach out for information without feeling like they have to talk to me. Have you ever felt like that? Like you want to know a little more about a house, but you really don't want to talk to the listing agent yet?
Yes.
Yes. So we have this thing that allows them to text. You know, I like to text, you like to text, you already told me that. They can text to a word rather than a person and receive an e-flyer back on your house with all the information. It comes instantaneously. But the great news for you as a seller is when they receive that e-flyer, I, your listing agent, receive their phone number and contact information immediately, and it links to your address so I know they've made an inquiry on your house. So now I'm developing a database of people who've actually driven by the front of the house, showed interest at least enough to ask for the information by text, and I can follow up with them. Often I'm able to get these people to engage in conversation, and we can find out if they really would like to see the house, and I can encourage them to take a look. And you know, as much as we like to think everybody makes plans to buy a house, I'm sure you've heard about people who are impulse buyers, right?
Yes, people. Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I have to stay away from open houses too much. I always want to buy the ones that I like the best. Not a good idea. I'd be moving all the time. So now you mentioned that you know a lot of your neighbors, that they love this neighborhood and that they often refer people back in. Can you tell me about that? Are there other families that have actually had other family members move in or close friends?
Yes. Yeah, there's been we have some families that, we have a sister that her and her brother live a few doors down from each other. She just recently had moved into the neighborhood and he'd been here for about 10 years. Okay.
All right. So often in neighborhoods like yours, we send the property announcements to the immediate neighborhood. In other cases, if that isn't the type of neighborhood you're in, we might send them outward to somewhere else where people are moving from. But in your case, because you have people who love their neighborhood so much, and they're probably talking to friends and family about it regularly, we're going to send 100 property announcements, and pull it out. It's a trifold announcement. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the things I have in the pre-listing packet. Let's open it up so you can take a look. I know you didn't have a lot of time to go through things, but this announcement gets a lot of attention from people. They tend to hold on to it and really take a look because it is so, so nice. And because it comes in the silver envelope, it often gets mistaken for being an invitation to something. So it almost always gets opened. The marketing company has tracked a 74% open rate on this. So we should get almost everybody to open it and initially look at it. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So we'll be doing that. And then hopefully we'll get some calls from neighbors or family or friends that take a look. And then we're going to be doing a local realtor update the very first week that you're on the market and any weekend that we do a non-traditional open house. This goes out to everybody in MetroList who is a realtor in our area. And it basically lets them know your house has come on the market, and it goes electronically. And then it lets them know if there's going to be any kind of an open house in the upcoming weekend. Okay. Any questions about that?
Nope.
Okay. This is an older slide, but we all know that we're doing Home Spotter now. If you guys are out doing this, my new presentation has a little bit different look, but we do an ad that goes out to Facebook, Instagram, all different websites through a company called Home Spotter, and it's going to run for a number of days. That ad, as people click on it and look at pictures and comment on it, it's going to send me, your listing agent, the email address and contact information, whatever those people have on their social media page. to a daily feed. And I'll be able to go in and monitor it and follow up with people that have shown interest. So just know I'm a very proactive agent. I'll be downloading that information. On one listing in only a 5-day ad, we had over 297 people that interacted with the ad, and we received their contact info. So I was able to send follow-up emails and reach out in the various ways that I was able to contact them. We almost always get the email addresses, and sometimes we get a little bit more, possibly even a phone number here and there. All right, and then the targeted social media and web advertising. We will be sending out that ad we talked about to a real estate target market. It's going to be people who've been looking at mortgages, looking at homes, asking questions about real estate and interacting with real estate type ads. So it's going to be popping up in front of the right people. You know how when you've looked at something online, all of a sudden you start getting all these weird pop-ups in your Facebook feed about those same types of things?
Happens all the time.
It's kind of weird, right? You feel like somebody's stalking you. Well, that's exactly how this works. So it's going to be going to the right people because they will have been out looking at things and they're going to see your house. All right. And I'm sure that's what you want. I'm assuming. Want them to see it. All right. And then we talked about online exposure and how visited Coldwell Banker's site is. But when you're out looking, you're probably looking on some other sites. Are these some of the sites you've looked on in the past?
Yeah, these and Redfin.
And Redfin. Perfect. So there is no one who gives you more online exposure than Coldwell Banker. So we populate to 700 different websites across the United States and 200 international sites in 43 countries. And again, there is no one, I challenge you to find someone who will show you more online exposure. And that's what you want nowadays. That's going to get you where you need to be to get that initial look. And then people will be doing some more homework, right? And when we're all done with the marketing to show you that we've done exactly what we've said, my team will be delivering to you a seller's report. And it will list everything that I said I would do from the day that we order and install your property sign and put this into the Metro list, to when we feed the property to our 900 websites, to every single thing on the list. And anything that I provide a link in this letter so that you can access it, from the TV show ad to your the company website, the YouTube channel, everything else. So you can take a look at this. I have a copy in your pre-listing packet for you to review from a prior listing. So, and last but not least, often people don't know this, but we are a company called NRT, doing business as Coldwell Banker. So when you see real estate reports about companies and how much business they do, for the 22nd straight year, Real Trends, who ranks real estate companies, residential real estate companies across the country, we have been #1 in sales volume based on annual sales. So there is no one selling more real estate. And when I take your listing, by the way, with your permission, I will be sending it out across the country to all 800 of our offices, and that is more than 50,000 sales associates. So if there is someone looking across the country to move into California to our market, those agents will be receiving the information on this listing right off the bat, even if they're not looking appropriately at what we have online. All right. So Jeff?
Sounds good.
So we talked about the job of an exceptional agent being threefold: marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. Based upon what you've seen from the marketing, and we haven't even talked about the buyer locator tool yet, how do we weigh compared to the other people you've talked to, or at least to Bob, because you said Bob was who impressed you?
I mean, with what you're offering, there's several different marketing mediums you touched on that no one else has.
Right. And how do you feel about that?
Oh, I like it. I know the more chances I have to have somebody look at my home, the better the result's going to be.
There you go. So we're in a good place. So the last thing I want to mention is I put a report in this pre-listing packet about how we use our buyer locator tool. So I just want to very quickly let you know that we have something that others simply don't have. And it is intelligence that we've invested in and put into a tool that allows us to locate where the 10 most likely buyers profiles are coming from. It gives us the zip code, age range, as you can see, and I'm showing him the buyer's report, you guys, and the ways they like to buy, where they look, whether they're looking at email, television, print advertising, going online to Google or YouTube or wherever they go, right? Facebook. And for your home, should you choose to partner with me and I with you, I will run this report. And when we do our target advertising outside of what I'm doing in the local market, we will target at minimum the top 1 to 3 of the top buyers that would be moving to your area and looking for a home like yours. So does that sound like something that would be exciting to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good. So before I move into the next steps of what I do, which is the negotiation and transaction management, and as you saw, I provided you a copy of the contract in the packet that you haven't had a chance to really go through. If you were to make a choice right now, all other things being the same, who would you move forward with? Would I be able to get you to move forward today?
Yes. I mean, with the marketing you've outlined and what you're able to do, yeah, I'm impressed.
All right, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and get the contract out and go through that, and then we can cover on the back end once we get everything signed, what we're going to be doing on the listing price and everything else to make sure we get the best price for your home. So here's the contract. I put in the price that I'm, advising based on the comps. You wanted $750. To be really honest, if we listed at $750 based on the comps that I've provided here, we're going to be just below what the comps support. So you should be in a really great position if we go in at that price and most likely get more than one offer based on what's going on in your neighborhood. However, I tell every seller, do not expect that you're going to get more than one offer, because every once in a while something shifts and the market changes, and it can happen on a dime within a few days. And if that happens, at least you know you've listed with the company that's going to give you the greatest exposure and the best marketing in the business. Would you agree?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. So let's go ahead and get the paperwork done, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to say something, you guys. I did that and Jeff did that because half the time you're not going to have to go into the contract and you're not going to have to talk about negotiation and transaction management. Do you want to keep talking and tell them about all that stuff if they're ready to sign? Have you ever heard of somebody talking themselves out of a sale?
Yes.
Realtors are famous for it. They love to sit at a table and talk about how great they are. They'll sit there and talk about themselves. I've heard sellers say this over and over. Oh my God, he talked about himself and he talked about his sales and he was there for 45 minutes talking all about him. You need to talk about what's important to them, right? Now, let's say Jeff took a different slant and Jeff says, oh, I'm not really ready to move forward, right? So Jeff, if you weren't ready to move, because if he was, I'm going to do the contract. And who leaves and doesn't get it signed when they're there? Does anybody do that regularly? You don't have to raise your hand. I hope you all get your contract signed when you're at the house. You do, right? Heads nodding yes?
Yes.
Hands raised, heads nodding.
And the reason I'm asking is I know for a fact there are some agents that habitually don't. They actually leave and then they DocuSign it over later. And I just want to say, I think that's a huge risk. Jeff, would you like to weigh in on that?
I've had people lose appointments. They were convinced the listing appointment went extremely well, only to find out later they didn't take that next step and have them sign the listing agreement. And I just wouldn't leave without it unless there was some reason, 100%, why they just simply wouldn't sign it. I wouldn't walk away without it.
And Bonnie has her hand up. Bonnie Peterson? Bonnie, did you have a question? You're on mute if you're trying to talk. Bonnie? I think I lost her. Kim, did you have a question? Your hand was up for a minute.
Well, I was just going to comment that if you don't ask for it and someone who is following behind you who is seasoned and does ask for it, that's a perfect opportunity for you to lose the listing. So your job is to ask for that commitment and have scripts that allow you to feel confident to do that, because you don't know if you're going to be able to get back in front of that person to get that signature.
No, and I know it sounded like Jeff went way too easy on me, but we're going to go through some of the things that happen when they don't say yes right then, right? But if you need to ask early, not after you've covered all the things you have in your tool bag, because if they seem like they're saying yes and they seem excited and now they've just said you were better than the other people they met with, there's not any reason not to ask unless you're just afraid to ask, which isn't a good reason. You need to learn how to ask them to move forward. And I know there are people out there, I've been that person in my past, that I literally got sweaty palms and my hands would shake when I had to ask that question, but you have to do it. It's part of what you need to do. It's not pushy, it's expected, right? So Tara, go ahead, Kim.
I was just gonna say, and for me, I had to set the mindset, it's my job to ask, right? If I don't ask, I didn't do my job. So, figure out what your mindset is around asking that question and figure out how to overcome that challenge so that you see it in a positive way, whether that's you failed if you didn't ask, whether that's you didn't do your job, whatever the mindset is that reminds you that you have to ask, it's your job, is what you need to work towards.
So one of my mentors used to say to me that if I left without getting that listing and I didn't ask and somebody else got it, he would look at me and he'd say, do you think that they got somebody better than you that's going to work harder for them and do a better job for them than you? And I would always say, well, no. And he'd say, then you blew it. You hurt them by not asking. You hurt them, Jennifer, by not asking and by not continuing to have the conversation until they made a final decision. So it really pushed me to think differently about my job, right? It isn't just about me getting the listing. It's about me doing what's best for them. And if I truly believe what I'm bringing to the table and what I do is of value, and if you don't, you guys, you need to sit down with Jeff or I or your manager and spend some time getting to that place in your head, because what you're bringing to the table, yourself and Coldwell Banker, is so much more than what 99% of the rest of the world in real estate is doing out there for a seller. All right. And you have to believe that. And if you don't, then you need to work on that with your manager or your mentor or your coach. Okay. Tara, you've had your hand up for a while. What's your question?
I just was wondering, like, if you're not the last person, because if you're the last person, chances are you get that signature a lot better than if you're the first person. So you have to already organize to be the last, or you just, the first impression is more important.
So let's role play that.
You can't, because you can't control that, and that's a great statement, and Kim touched on that, and that's where if you're the second agent on the appointment, you have to take the lead and you have to say, no, it's my job to ask for the order. And I've had agents in my office do this because they could like you very well, but they're not sure how the dance goes. And because of that, they may be thinking, well, geez, I don't want to call and insult. I have a person coming in a couple hours or tomorrow, and I should interview him, and I don't want to call and cancel. It just wouldn't seem right. And I've had agents in my office say, hey, we've hit it. It seems like this is going to work out real well. Sounds like you want to work with me. I'll go ahead and make that call for you. And I know that sometimes can make people feel a little bit uncomfortable, but you'll feel a lot better about securing that listing than you will about losing it because you didn't ask to do that. And I've had folks actually, that homeowners, take up the agent on that and said, hey, you will call? You'll do that? The agent said, sure, I'll let them know that you've selected to work with me. Absolutely.
Jeff, I did that all the time. You and Chris taught me that way back when I was new, and I did it all the time. And often they would let me call the other agent because I would say to them, Tara, you said you want to work with me. Do you really want to interview more people? Because if I can handle this for you, I'm happy to call them, and I'll encourage them to bring buyers by the house, that I'd love to work with them, but you've made the decision to move forward with Coldwell Banker and with me. Would that make you feel better about making a decision tonight? And you nodding, and they'll say yes. And then you just do the paperwork. And then you do make the phone call. It's a little awkward, but you do it. And I'm sure there are people on this call who've done that. Has anybody on this call ever done that as a listing agent? No, I have. And I know others that have. Who was that? Who said that?
It's Kim. I was going to say, I haven't done that one, but I have used the script of, why don't you go ahead and make the commitment to sign the paperwork with me today? And then if you interview with the agent after me and you find that they're a better fit for you, I'll tear the listing agreement up and send it back to you. No harm, no foul.
I've done that one too when they didn't want me to call.
I have too.
Had to interview them.
One of my mentors taught me. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned that too. You got to do whatever feels right with that person. Jackie Merchant has her hand up. Jackie?
Hello. First of all, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Great presentation. I have a couple questions. So it's kind of great in this format because we can all see the materials that you're putting up, but there's that logistical thing when you're sitting with people. First of all, are you using Moxie or are you using the 12-minute listing presentation? What are you working with?
To be honest, if I were at a listing appointment, I wouldn't be using electronic stuff like we're doing here. I would love to have something on a table and talking to them. That's just me. Does not mean one of you can't use a computer and do it on a screen. But I like to lay things in front of people and talk through them. And I would only be putting the things in front of them I thought were important. Again, let's go back to your pre-listing packet. Your pre-listing packet should have the programs we talked about before, which Real Sure, Real Vitalize. And if you've had a conversation with them up front, you know, you've already alerted them to the fact that you have programs like this. His house doesn't need any work, this role play. His house doesn't need any fixing up to get it ready for the market. But if the house you're in needs some work and you know they've got $500,000 in equity, where would you go with that? Talk about anyone?
Real Vitalize.
Real Vitalize. Very good, Jackie. And I know you've talked about this before, and there are other people in the office who've used it, right? So, and if you had somebody who, I've had 2 agents have this happen in the last week. They walked in and they were blindsided because somebody is like, oh, I'm looking at, and they had no reason to think these people were looking at these kind of offers, but they had offers from like Open Door and Zillow on the table, and they actually were considering them, but they weren't in any kind of a stress situation where they had to, and the agents were blown away and they hadn't brought up the fact that they had Real Sure. So if it's a house that qualifies for the Real Sure program, you should have that in your back pocket and have it on the table. Sarah Green, I know you're on this call unless you've jumped off. You just did that, right?
Yes.
And it won you the listing, right?
Yes.
Because you had it. You had the offer. She was so excited. She called me the minute she walked out the door of the listing appointment. She goes, oh my God, it works. And I was playing cards. I'm like, I'm playing cards. I've only got a minute. What?
Yeah, it was just a nice touch. It was just a nice touch that I went beyond.
Mm-hmm. And it's a fallback. They aren't necessarily going to take the Real Sure offer, but they know that's their worst case scenario, and they can still put their house on the market with Sarah and get all this great marketing. And Sarah, what did you get on that appointment, that the listing commission?
I got 6%.
You did a great job.
Awesome.
You did everything right on that one. All right, and I've got multiple people with hands up. Michelle Mahalko, hi, how are you?
I'm great. I just wanted to follow up on the hard copy. I found it successful when I bring the hard copy of the listing presentation, and then when I get the listing, I tell them I'm going to send them the web version, especially because it updates the CRM for them. I mean the comps as they go pending, which they like to see.
That's beautiful. And I love that you just brought that up because we haven't talked about using Moxie, but for anyone on the call who is not using Moxie as their listing presentation platform, if you run your comps in Moxie, not enter them manually, but run the comps from Moxie, it does do that. So if you provide the client an electronic version of that, once you've done the presentation, when they go back in the next day or the day after, if something that was active has gone pending, it's going to update and show them that. Right? If something falls out of escrow, it's going to update and show them that. It's a really great tool if you're using it that way, and then the client can keep track of what's going on with the comps you've provided too. Thanks for being our stage for talking about the right things. I'm going to forget all these things if we don't. Amy,
and I bring it like Jennifer's talking about. I think show and tell is I would bring the brochures for Listing Concierge, because I think anything that we can do to engage them and say, here's some of your options, which one do you like best? I think any of those steps along the way to help them, you know, be engaged in how it is we're going to showcase their home. I think it increases the value we bring.
Well, and the challenge with doing this class electronically is we can't show you as easily what we do at a table, right?
Yeah.
But yes, you're going to have the pre-listing packet there. You're going to have the copy of the contract that you gave them with the pre-listing packet, all highlighted with the areas to talk about if you need to go down that road. You're going to have your listing contract already pre-filled and ready to sign. It's not going to be blank with the commission to be filled in later. For any of you who do that, no, write in your 6% or whatever it is you charge and have it already filled out. You can always cross something out and have them initial it if you're going to make a change, but you need to fill it out the way it's going to be signed in your mind ahead of time, not be waffling before you ever get to that point by not filling it out.
And showcase the value of Listing Concierge, because you can state, I believe so strongly, and how I'm going to choose to market your property, then I'm going to be spending over $1,100 right on day one. So we need to be telling that story and saying, here's what it is that we're doing, step A, B, C, D. And that 24-step marketing plan, you don't have to do all those things. It's really just a guide to give you some ideas to separate yourself from the competition.
Yeah, and whatever you provide them as your 24-step marketing plan, or whatever number of steps you have, needs to be what you are going to do. That was an example of what someone's is, but yours will be a little different. Not everybody's will be identical. We're just trying to give you an idea of the kind of thing you'll put in front of them that leads them through the process, right? Amy Winslow, you've had your hand up for a while.
Hi.
Hi.
I thought you brought up a really important point earlier in today's market, which was how many deals fall out right now because everybody's so eager to just bid high and get into contract. How logistically, how do you find out how many have fallen out? And how do you combat that or make yourself more valuable besides saying we provide increased marketing exposure?
So Jeff, you want to take this, the MetroList reports that actually show things that have come back active from pending?
Correct. And you can ask also your office manager. Pretty much we have a pretty good idea of what those numbers are. So when you're going out on those appointments, and it's a great talk track. I mean, it's one of the questions that you can ask a seller because you're also interviewing them for the job of electing to work with them. And one of the things you could ask them when they met with the other agents, did any of the other agents speak to them about how they were going to work hard to protect their interest once the property gets in escrow? And speaking to the fact that so many properties are falling out, what steps are you actually taking to best position me? Not that we can entirely remove that from happening, but we could reduce it dramatically from happening just by taking initial steps. And
Yes.
then we should be able to talk about some of those things, whether that's the deposit or removal of appraisal contingencies or reduction in appraisal contingencies, whatever the case would be. But I think we have to be prepared to have that talk track.
Well, and Jeff, we didn't go in this role play to that step, but okay, if you got to that point where you're asking them if they're ready to move forward and Jeff had said, well, no, I'm not quite ready. You know, I really, even though your marketing is that much better, you know, Bob has done a lot of business in my neighborhood more than you have, and he's the area expert. Let's say that's the conversation you're having, right? And I'm not sure. Well, that's when you go to that next step. Well, again, we talked about the job of an exceptional agent threefold. It's marketing, negotiation, and transaction management. And then you have the conversation Jeff just had. Did Bob or anyone else talk to you about what they do to protect you once you get into escrow? And then I know you didn't have time, Jeff. You mentioned you were so busy you didn't have time to go through the packet. Can we grab the contract and let's take a look at a few things? And visual is always better than just talking at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you lay the contract out, and hopefully if you've done what we talked about in the pre-listing packet, your contract has some yellow highlights on key paragraphs, so they're drawn to those, right? You can even have sticky notes with some little notes on there, whatever works for you as a good talking point. And then you go to things like paragraph 14. You go to things like the initial deposit and how much it is, right, on page 1. Then you go to things like all the different contingencies and what it means to limit people's time periods and what happens if they don't remove their contingencies. Is the deposit at risk? Do they understand how that works in California? I'll tell you right now, if they're from another state, Jeff, how many other states have passive contingency removal like us?
No.
I have had so many agents come to me, oh my God, this is screaming at me. So just so you know, if they're from Oregon or they're from back east, most of these other states, the date comes and goes and the seller gets the deposit. They just don't do things the same way. So if they've moved here and this is the first house they've sold in California and you forget to talk about this and that buyer misses their contingency removal time, and you guys didn't go into great detail about what you're doing to protect them and give them the option to serve a notice to perform, I've had people scream and yell, and they've never forgiven their agent because they didn't get the deposit, because they didn't serve notices to perform, and the conversation never happened. So again, I only know because I've got a bunch of agents, and it doesn't happen all the time. But do you want it to ever happen to you? Or do you want that person to look at you as the exceptional agent who actually had these conversations up front and, oh my gosh, no, nobody else. Jeff, did anybody else talk to you about this?
And the answer will always be no, of course not. No.
Wow. And you just get quiet. Just sit there for a minute. Let them stew in that. Because he hasn't decided whether he wants to list with Bob Smith or me, because Bob's the area expert.
Yeah, that's a wow or really, really.
Yeah, really. Well, you know, there's some other things we should probably talk about too. You don't say anything bad about Bob. You let their head start going, right? And then you go, in addition, has anybody talked about your right to cancel? Once you get into escrow as a seller, well, don't I have a right to cancel?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the contract, right? And you pointed out, how many sellers think that they must have some kind of out once they accept an offer? Who's ever been in that position?
A good number.
That's another manager thing I get drug into a lot. So again, that you want them to understand what the contract says, and that if they really want a right to cancel for some specific reasons, like finding another home in Folsom, right, Jeff? Jeff, you mentioned you want to find another home in Folsom, and when we decide to work together, I'm super excited to help you do that. Has anybody talked to you about how I best protect your interests, or how they're going to protect your interests while you're looking for that other home and your house is in escrow?
No.
No. So let me ask you, let's say we get your house in escrow and we have about 45 days till it's going to close because the person's, you know, getting a loan and maybe they're selling their house too. While we're looking for a home for you, what if we run into some concerns and we can't find the right house for you? Do you have a game plan in the interim of where you'd live? Should we get your house sold and you haven't found what you want?
I could probably come up with something, but it wouldn't be ideal.
So what would be ideal? What would you like the best? Would you like to have a rent back on this house, or would you like to have the ability to cancel and rent back?
Ability to stay here until I locate something else.
Well, that's my job, right? So we talked about the job of an exceptional agent, negotiation. So when we get these offers or an offer in hand, on the very front end, before we get into escrow, we want to make sure we take care of that for you, right? So it's my job to show you what your options are. Blah, 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 blah. Then you talk through seller in possession, residential lease after sale, whatever it needs to be, right? Same thing goes if he wants a contingency to find a replacement property. You cover that option and you point out where it is in the contract. And you continue to go, did anybody talk to you about this? Oh, really? They didn't? Okay, well, what do you think that guy's thinking by the time you've covered 3 or 4 of these things? You don't have to cover everything. It won't take that much. Where do you rank now compared to the other guy that was pretty good, but you had a little bit better marketing? If you guys don't win the listing after having this conversation, then something else is going on that he hasn't told you, right? I mean, would you guys agree?
Sell us on that, Jen. Sell us on having a contingency for seller replacement.
Okay, well, you've done that, right, Destiny?
I hate those, so I want you to sell me so I'm better at it.
I want you to sell.
You're so funny. Nobody likes them very much because they're yucky forms. I'm not going to lie, I'm not crazy about the forms, but they exist and they're there for a reason. So let's say you're the seller, Destiny, and I'm your agent, right? So Destiny, if we get somebody in escrow on your house and we really aren't finding what you want in Folsom and we can't get into escrow on something that you just love, and you've already told me, Destiny, you really don't want to rent or have to find somewhere to live in the interim, do you want the right to cancel on this buyer? Would you rather not sell your house, or would you rather do a rent back? Which is better for you?
Well, I'm in negotiations right now with one of my, or you want me to role play? But
no, I'm pretending you're the seller. Role play and tell me you want you want to be able to cancel on the buyer.
Yeah, I want to stay.
You want to stay, meaning you don't want to rent back. You want to cancel if it comes to that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I hear you. And you know what? If I were in your shoes, I might feel exactly the same way. You know what the good news is? We have a form for that. Let me show you. And then you pull it out. And if you don't have it printed, but you might have it printed because you're going to an appointment where you know the person wants to move and find another house, right? So you might have a copy with you. You pull it out and you say, this is how it works. When we get an offer on your house, especially if we get more than one, because if we get more than one offer, our negotiating power goes up, right? We're going to present this to the buyers or buyer that we're negotiating with and say, listen, we are so excited you're interested in our home, but at the same time, we have to find one as well. And I know if you've been out shopping, you know how hard it is to find the home of your dreams. And we want to sell our house to you, but we want to be able to find one for ourselves as well. So we're going to counter with this. And you can have this conversation with the other agent because a lot of agents are not familiar with the RLAS and it makes them uncomfortable. So you have to be able to speak to it as a listing agent and help them be comfortable so that they present it properly to their client. You may even want to write an email when you present it that goes with it, so the agent has some help presenting it, because you're not going to get to talk to their client, right? But the benefit is it gives your seller a period of time to find another home, and depending on the boxes you check on the form, it's going to give them the option to cancel if they can't get to where they need to on the purchase of the new home. So they can cancel.
And it better positions them to get their offer accepted, because that's a challenge we're running into right now. If sellers aren't willing to look at utilizing that as a means of stepping into the next property, they're not going to best position themselves to get their offer accepted. And the beauty of it is, how we ought to be able to sell this to them is, look, this best positions you, and you can always say no. In the event we don't find something that's going to work, you have a fallback.
And some of you
It's
may
really
be
all
sitting,
about giving them the options.
yeah. And this is the thing. I think some of you, I'm looking at how many people we have on this call. We've got 30 people on here, Jeff. That's 28 besides you and me. So I know that means there are a bunch of people on here that are hearing all this contract talk, and you're probably clenching going, I don't know that. I don't know that. It's okay that you don't know that. Make note of everything you're hearing right now on this call that you don't know, and go read it and learn it, and come back and ask me, ask Jeff, ask Kim if she's your coach, ask Crystal, ask the people that can help you, and become the expert. That's our job, you guys. That's why they should be listing with us. The marketing is huge, and that's a huge piece, but the contract is even bigger. And if you're not confident on it, that's why I'm here. That's why Jeff's here. That's why we're all here. It's to help you, okay? We want to make you exceptional at this and have you so comfortable you can talk circles around the other people they're interviewing if it comes down to this, okay?
Yeah, and one of the things we want to do as a follow-up to this too is do some scripts and dialogues around objections, because obviously that could take some time and get into some engagement, but I think it's really important not to assume that a listing appointment just goes as smooth as the one we showcased today, but at least have objections on, what about commission? What about this? Redfin said that. How do we best position ourselves? So we're going to cover some of that hopefully by next week perhaps, and then we can get that on the calendar.
Let me look right now. Let me look at my calendar. We might be able to do it on the 26th. Do we have any classes? Yeah, we can't do it on the 26th. We've got a NorCal meeting at 10 o'clock. We will look for another time, maybe the following week before I leave. I'm leaving on vacation on the 2nd. So Jeff, let's try to find something and get it on the calendar, and we'll send it out to both offices. But it's going to be an hour on objection handling for listing appointments. Okay, guys, and we will spend a lot of time on it. Kim?
And Jennifer, if you want to use our Thursday coaching and coffee at 10 a.m., we could all do that at that time, if that works better for you on the I think that's the 25th.
I'm looking right now, 25th. We've got a meeting on that day too, Jeff. What is going on with all these meetings?
I know, right?
You wonder what your managers do when we're not doing what we love, which is this. Yeah, thank you, Kim. We are actually booked from 10 to 12 on the 25th, but we will come up with the time, and we'll try not to conflict with your call. We won't be conflicting with your call because we have another call at that time, but we'll find something very soon, and we'll get it on the calendar before the 2nd of April, because that's when I'm taking off for a week. Okay.
And then I'm going to send and share something out too. I don't know if Tuesday at 9:30 works for everybody, but it's going to be on leveraging your CRM.
And Ann has her hand up. Ann, I didn't mean to ignore you for so long. Did you have another question? Oh, you're on mute, hun. You're on mute.
Yeah.
You weren't earlier. Oh, you know, it doesn't say you're muted, but I can't hear you again. This happened yesterday to you, I think, on a call, or the other day. Must be your microphone. Do you want to send something in the chat? Put it in the chat. I will read it. I was on a call the other day, a training call for a few minutes. She had the same microphone thing come up. Oh, and Bonnie Peterson asked, do we post-date the listing agreement to comply with MLS rules if the client plans on listing in a few weeks? Bonnie, if you're still here, no, we do not. What we do is we date the listing agreement for that day because you want it to be effective immediately. You don't have an agreement to list the house if it's post-dated, but MLS will allow you not to put the listing active right away. All MLS requires is that you enter it and save it with a future on market date within, is it still 3 days, Jeff?
Yes, correct.
3 days. So let's say you take the listing on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Wednesday, you have to have it in MetroList and saved with a future on market date. And I see that you're still there, Bonnie, good. But don't post date your listings, you guys, because all that client has to do is call you back and say, tear it up. I'm not moving forward with you. And I know people do that, so I'm glad you asked the question. Thank you. All right, so Ann, the contingency about finding another house, can you present that after they make the offer? Are you talking about after they receive an offer from a buyer? Okay, yes. Okay, yes, because the idea would be to counter it as the seller, because the seller's looking to get that ability before they go into an accepted contract with the buyer, right? So let's say they get 10 buyers that write offers on their house, and you're presenting 10 offers to that seller. And that seller's like, I just don't want to get somebody in escrow, have a hard close date, and then find out I can't find what I want in Folsom. So I want to counter these three. Let's say they pick their top three, and I'm going to, counter them on whatever terms that they need countering, and I want them all to agree to the RLAS with these terms. And then you attach it as part of your counter offer, and then if those people accept, then you've got your deal, right? And you can do a multiple counter offer, and then pick which one's the best overall for you. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. I think, unless you guys have anything really urgent, I think we go ahead and table any objection handling stuff for the next meeting. We'll send out what we have for today. And again, we're happy to go into great detail on the objection handling. And if you guys want a contracts class, we can schedule something like that in the very near future as well. Does that sound good? All right. Thank you, everybody. This is fun. And Jeff and I love doing this. If we could do this all day long, I think we would.
Yeah, I know.
Have a great day.
Have a great Friday.
Bye-bye.